your like screens like there it says it's live. So ladies and gentlemen, we are live. Welcome to Love A Afrobeat Music Talk Radio, and you are listening to the Safe Room podcast. I am your host, the president Shon Williams, and the Safe Room is a safe space for entrepreneurs and business owners here in Toronto to share their personal and professional stories. I wasn't here last week, so we're back at it again. I miss you guys. I miss you all. And I miss, doing what I love. And for this conversation, I have a very fantastic guest. And honestly, this connection that we had over the last couple of weeks has been so genuine. And I'm so glad to have her on the podcast. Let me first go over her bio just very quickly. I know I can't make it do justice, but I'm going to try. I'm going to try. So she is a deaf coach and advocate. She is also a podcast speaker, a best-selling author, and a passionate entrepreneur on a mission to help young adults with disabilities achieve their goals while also educating others about the deaf community. First of all, round of applause. Absolutely beautiful. And she has a little moniker that she goes by, the Deaf Queen Boss. And I love that name. It's so powerful. It just shows that like you know yourself. You are in your lane and no one else is trying to get within your lane. So today, ladies and gentlemen, we have the one and only Kellina Powell. Kellina, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. And that was a lovely introduction. Thank you.
Yeah, I try my best to give the best intros to all my guests. So I'm glad I did justice on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So like I mentioned before, we had a really interesting, first connection. I remember that you messaged me on LinkedIn, and from there it was just kind of like, okay, you're someone who wants to come on the podcast. And usually some of the times like I'm always going around and I'm asking people like, or I'm kind of throwing out like, hey, if you want to come on, then please come on. But then when I saw your message, I'm like, oh wow, they're coming to me. Like it's sometimes it's nice to know when people chase the podcast hosted away. So that was great. And just hearing your story was absolutely amazing. So before I go on any further, maybe you want to reintroduce yourself to everyone listening here on Love Bay Radio. Just who is Kellina and what do you do?
Thank you. Yeah, I'll tell you about hi everybody. My name is Kellina Powell and aka Dub Queen Bob. And I'm located in Toronto. Yeah, that's where Drake live. People are like, oh, where Drake live? I'm like, yeah, yeah. And yeah, so like you said, I am an international speaker, an author, a coach. And lastly, now I'm creating a lot of programs now. So I'm creating courses, which is super exciting to share with everybody what I'm doing and as well just keep going and continue impacting more people.
I love that. Absolutely love that. And I remember from seeing your LinkedIn and your bio and everything, I thought like, wow, this is like really amazing because I don't think I've ever had a guest who's, had a disability, whereas like they were deaf or anything like that. And I thought it was a great opportunity to bring you on the podcast to share your story because I feel like a lot of these individuals, especially like yourself, they don't get the chance to share something extra about themselves, especially how the safe room represents a place for business entrepreneurship. And I love how you carry that with the add on that, you're someone with a hearing disability, which I think is a very unique story. And I think for you, I'm very excited to have this conversation to kind of break down just a little bit more about the work that you do. I'm super excited for that. But before we get into the main questions, you know what time it is. It's been over 2 weeks since I've been able to say this. So I'm glad I'm saying it now. It's time for the hot seat segment. Don't worry, Kalina. It's nothing too crazy, so don't panic.
Spicy.
It is just simply four questions that I want to ask you, and I just want you to answer them to your best capabilities. Okay? Okay, perfect. So the first question that I have here, outside the work that you do as an entrepreneur and a deputy boss, first of all, that's again fantastic moniker. Tell me something about yourself in one sentence.
I am loud.
I love that. Straight to the point. I am okay, okay. You wanna, like, expand a little bit more maybe for people, like, alright, like, well, what does that mean to you that way?
I would say I'm always very outgoing person. I'm not shy at all. People are like this girl can go in any room. If you put me in a room and you're like, Kalina, I'm too shy to be here. Oh my god, I got your back. I'm taking over the room. Let's go. And they're like, you are loud and you know how to engage well with other people. So that's why people call me the loud one, but I'm not. But I know how to talk to people. I'm very outgoing, so that's why they call me the loud person. So
I love that though, because it's like, again, based on just your story as well. I think you kind of given that definition, like I am the loud one. So like just because of how I grew up and just the circumstances, it doesn't mean that it devalues my characteristic or my growth or just my personality. I love how you let that shine even more when you step into the room. I have this little joke for myself. If I step into a room with you and we talk for 5 minutes, I'm probably gonna get all your contact information. Like that's just how interactive I am. So I even love that. Like even from our first interaction, I can tell like, wow, like she's got a really bubbly personality, kind of like myself. So I'm like, okay, like I feel like if we ever get the chance to talk even further, I'm like, yeah,
right.
it's gonna be pure vibes, pure vibes. Okay, I love that. I absolutely love that. Okay, so the second question that I have here, what is the most valuable piece of advice that you ever received?
This device is from my grandma before she passed away, and she literally said to me before she passed, she said, "Life is too short. Tomorrow's not a promise. You have to live life to the fullest every day."
Mm, yeah, that's so true. That is so true. We live in a time where everything is just moving so fast, and I feel like we
Yeah,
never take things in to just like live in the moment. We never soak in those special moments, those things that we're kind of going through. It's just always rush, rush, rush. So I
yeah,
totally agree on that.
yeah, for sure. And like even too, like there are times where my friends would be like, "Oh, like I'm working, I'm tired," or and I was just like, enjoy it. Take a break when you need to. Stop rushing in the life or even a day. Like, and there's not enough time in a day for a lot of people, especially us who are struggling during the inflation affected by us, and those who are struggling find a job. So there's not enough days, enough time for anybody no more.
Absolutely. You just hit on two extreme pain points. You said inflation and jobs. I think my heart just kind of sunk in my chest. Like, oh man, like that I know how that is, like being unemployed at one point, it's such a stressful time, or even just again, inflation prices are just raising, even interest. I think there was a recent announcement on the news saying that the interest rate is still steady at 5%. So like everyone's just trying to like, what are we gonna do? We gotta find ways to just adjust, but it's also like you gotta move on and just find different ways to just live life. And I don't, and this is kind of off topic, and this is not because of me. I want to speak on a little bit more, but even the solar eclipse, I heard lots of people having a lot of takes and opinions. Some people are saying like, "Oh, it was mid," or where I was, I couldn't see it. It was everything was just kind of like, "Oh, da, 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 da." I'm just like, I don't think you guys understand the significance of this moment. And I feel like again, we're always looking for instant gratification on stuff. It's like I want this to happen now, and it needs to happen in the most grandiose way. When it's like, well, that's not how life works. It doesn't work like that, and that's not the life that we're meant to live. If that's the life you want to live, like, hey, kudos, do that, you're you. But like, I feel like you're gonna be a little disappointed by the results. So
I agree 100%. I always tell people, like, I mean, hey, you want to live that lifestyle? Go ahead, but I'm not here for it. I like to take my time and slowly go and live my life the way how I wish to be and how I want it to be. Because that's how people, like, don't let the social media fool you. Oh, flashy this, or they have this. Or, like, a lot of people just compare themselves way too much nowadays, and it's so sad because I was like, listen, I'm deaf. I don't compare myself to 90% of hearing person in front of me because I can't hear. I struggle with hearing sometimes, but I don't let it impact me for the rest of my life.
right, that's so true, so true. Okay, let's go on to the third question. An interesting fact that you rarely share about yourself.
Sorry, repeat that again.
So the third question, what is an interesting fact that you rarely share about yourself?
I love the fact that I never give up on myself, even though every day is a different day for me, different challenges I face. I never give up on myself, especially someone who needs a lot of accommodation while I'm interacting with people. So I love the fact that I never give up on myself, knowing the way I live my life is very different from everybody, but a lot of people look at me like, how do you do that? And I said, I just never give up. And that's the one thing I love about myself. I never give up or I doubt myself saying that I can't do certain things because I can't hear.
All right. I think that's a very interesting answer because usually when I ask people like what's an interesting fact, they will actually give me something like, oh, let's say I have like this unique trick that I can do, or like I actually had this moment back in, when I was growing up and it led to this and that. I love for you, it was just like just the persistence for you, just like not giving up, sticking to your goals, just kind of staying on track, staying committed. I think that's a really good answer because I feel like that is something a lot of people, including ourselves, like even me sometimes, like I don't really admit out loud because I feel like, I mean, I could just keep it to myself. But I feel like once you say it out loud for the world to hear, it's satisfying to you. It's not to say that, oh, I'm proving a point, be like, oh, I don't give up. Like, I'm gonna keep grinding. It's like I'm not trying to say that because like you're in the room. I'm saying it because it's more of a self accomplishment for me to say that I wake up every single day and I'm sticking to the grind, whatever that goal or that objective is. Like, even for me, sometimes I'll wake up and I'll tell myself, like, yo, I'm just gonna do something and I'm gonna be happy while doing it. Like, even if it's like I don't get it fully done, it's like I'm gonna at least do something. I don't want to just sit here and do absolutely nothing that's just meaningless work. So I love that answer, Kalina.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, going on to the final question here for the hot seat segment. What is your personal safe room? So, what is a safe space? It could be physical, it could be mental, that allows you to be your authentic self.
Getting my honestly the nail salon because I feel like it let me to relax and just to be more feminine. I guess because had a CEO working a 9 to 5 and having things in place, and it just kind of calmed me down a lot more to really think properly and more clearly because I'm always on the go like nonstop. And so that's when I realized that my safe space and somewhere I always go to is get my nails done. And I literally get my nails done every 2 weeks. Not that much compared to a lot of girls I know. And I'm like, well, that's too much for me. But anything that has to do with like my nails, anything with feminine stuff, like nails done, going to the spa, or anything like that, definitely my safe space. So.
I can already see like the nails on your they're flashes. I got to give a little sneak peek. I saw that. I was like, okay, okay. So I can definitely understand where you're coming from. And I love that answer too, because when you think of nail salons, usually it's, and maybe you can correct me when if I'm wrong, because like I said, I don't know that much knowledge. But nail salons usually a place where like it's quite the opposite. You're going there for all the gossip and everything like that. It's a very like chitty chattery place and everything like that. So I feel like for you to say that the nail salon, no, that's my safe space. That's where I can just be again my feminine self. I love that because it's a really interesting contrast. It's like for me saying, oh, my safe space is the barbershop. Now sometimes the barbershop can be a safe space for a black male, but also it's like there may be a lot of trash talking going on there. Everyone knows the aura of barbershop. It's like there's a lot of craziness and everything like that. So I love that answer because it's like a unique contrast to just based on how people interact with other people. So I love that. Okay, okay. So that is
Yeah,
all the
I
questions I
agree.
got. No, no,
I
no
agree.
problem. No problem. I understand. If there's like there's
I
noise
agree.
in the
I completely
background.
agree. It's true though. A lot of people like don't understand that the state space can be anything or anywhere. So some people, when you tell them nail salon or the barber, they be like, "Oh, but isn't it loud there? Isn't it like all gada?" But realistically, if you think outside of the box, you like being there. If you didn't like being there, you would not go so consistent. And some people don't realize that until later.
Absolutely. Okay, so that's all the questions I have for the hot seat. You gave some very unique answers. I love that. I think for what we've asked so
Woohoo!
far, like we're on the right track. So for anyone again coming in right now, listening to our conversation, you're listening to Love Bay Radio. This is the Safe Room Podcast. I'm your host, Shon Williams. We're here with Kellina Powell, and she is someone who considers herself the Deaf Queen Boss. And we're gonna go a little bit deeper into the galore in terms of how you got started, just your personal story, which is something that I actually want to transition to now. So I know from when we had our conversation before, you told me that you lost your hearing at the age of 4. So at such a young age too, I can't imagine, but I can only wonder just how was that moment of just growing up with someone with a hearing disability, someone who was deaf? And how did that change your surroundings, allowing you to basically act with different people or behave with different people? And even now, how is that experience allow you to grow into the powerful woman that you are today?
I love that question so much. It's gonna be a very long answer, you guys. So I'm gonna keep it really short and
You got all
easy.
the time. Ain't nobody cutting you off. You got all the time.
For me, honestly, it was so when I became deaf, it was a very, very, very difficult time for me because I'm the first person in my family that is deaf. So my family had no idea what to do. My mom was a young mom. She graduated college. She's like, what am I supposed to do with a 4-year-old that cannot like speak very well? And so what my family did, they put me into two schools, so hearing school and the deaf school, which was very unique. And this is actually to your question, right? How do I learn um to interact with different people? So with that happened to me when I was young, I was able to communicate very well with two different communities, with ASL and speaking. And that's when I learned a lot about myself in terms of who is the right people that can help me, accommodate me, make me feel safe and welcoming. And this is very hard for someone who have a disability. They don't always feel comfortable with people outside their circle. And it's very hard to accept that because not everybody is accommodating. So for me, 90% of the time when I'm interacting with someone, they're always in person. I have no choice but to learn how to speak to you guys. And so I learned that I have to figure out a way to find the right people for me. And that's the problem with a lot of people face is find the right person for you. Not everybody's for you. And that's the hardest thing that a lot of people don't understand is not everyone is for you. And it's okay that everybody is not for you. I have friends left, right, left me. Like it's a lot for me, but at least now I know who my true friends are. My true coworkers are very great. Like it takes time to grow and learn who's the right person for yourself. And for me, how did I learn was that I had a very strong supportive team within my family and also my closest friends. They were always there to support me. They always stand up for me no matter what. However, it actually started when I went to the home school full time when I was bullied, and that's when I realized that oh my god, like the hearing world can be a mean place, but it doesn't mean that everybody is mean. And that's when I met my lovely best friend. And so she's still my best friend to this day, to be honest. And so it's very hard to find the right people, but it's very important that we do know and kind of take a step back from certain things in our life and how we can um, support ourselves moving forward. And so it leads me to who I am, had to become boss when I knew I had to put my foot down on a lot of people who could not accommodate me, unfortunately. And which is where it leads me to being embracing my disability and not feeling bad for myself. And that's when I realized that it's okay to not be the right person for everybody. And that was the hardest
Mm,
thing I had to take back to myself was it's okay. And it wasn't something that comes naturally. I always tell people it takes time to know and how to talk to people, communicate with people. Because I realized that everybody communicates very, very different, and I had to learn how to work with everybody. It's a different communication style. And so this is where it leads me to being the Deaf Queen boss is because I know what I want. I know how people operate, how people communicate. Because of me as a deaf person, I learned communication style since I was 4 years old when I became deaf. So I knew what people like. Body language is super key for me because as a deaf person, well, actually the deaf community, they actually look at your body language. They can tell right off the bat, like, this person doesn't like me. Okay, I'm gonna leave. So that's how it is. So for me, I literally rely a lot on lip reading and body language. So I'm very good at telling someone if someone's not interested or not. I'm like, okay, bye. They're like, wait, I was listening. I'm like, no, you were not. I'm like, yeah, I was. I'm like, no, you're not. So for me, I know what's going on. So so that's how I learned when I got older, starting my business and realizing that, and it was actually quick for me to catch on who was the right person to work with, team, family, friends, like you can tell off the bat. And so it wasn't that hard for me to pick up when I started my company, but it was not that bad. So yeah.
I feel like we need to do an exercise. I have to be careful of my body language because I feel like when you're speaking, I'm like, I wonder if she can read me and just like how I'm like, are you paying attention, Sean? It's like, are you sure you're listening? No, I love that. I feel like hearing that, like your situation being deaf, I think that's your superpower in a way. That is your superpower that you embraced at one point and said, like, this is not a detriment. This is a blessing. And who am I to deny a blessing that comes from from God? Because obviously for me, I come from a Christian family. It's just like I feel like when it comes to just the things that are out of our control, what God gives to us. Those are things that we can't question. We can't question them. We could always like ask like why it's the case, but we can never, question God because like he's the one who has everything planned for us and we just don't know it yet. But if we put our faith in him, then obviously he's going to lead us down that road. And I feel like for you, that's the pathway he's taking you right now. And it's so inspiring because again, you were able to tap into something that at one point, like, I don't know. It's like, again, you having to work with people from like different communities, whether it's like the hearing world, the deaf world, and just even like someone like myself, it's just like you can understand someone's body language and the lip reading, like little details that, let's be honest, we live in a world where like everyone is trying to just do that like 24/7. But I feel like for you, you kind of understand the psychology about it. And I think that's really unique. And you kind of apply it to like, okay, because of that, how can I use this to now be an advocate and be an entrepreneur in my own way and bring that to the audience that I want to captivate, to connect with. So I think that's really great. And again, it's great to hear that you have a loving family who supported you all this time as well, because I feel like family is so crucial. It doesn't matter what you're going through, no matter what things are happening. Sometimes your friends can't give you those answers like your family can. Like just straight up.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, I know, like, I'll be like, for example, during COVID, it was the hardest time of years in my life. It was worse than when I became deaf at age of 4, to be honest, because I'm a lip reader. So the mask is covering the lips, and I need to rely on lip reading. And I went out with my friend, and it was very hard. And then I was so nervous to ask, like, my friend, like, what is the waitress saying? Like, and I'm like, oh my God. And but my family was with me. They would have known already, like, okay, she can't hear you. Like, just before she wanted to order. So, like, it is very different with friends and family because family knows you the most than your friends. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's really beautiful because again, like you want to have that strong bond no matter where you go with your family. And like again, it's great to know that they're your biggest supporters. And as they should be your biggest supporters as well. I feel like a lot of times, like even for anyone, we get caught up with other stuff, whether it's work and everything like that. Sometimes you forget to kind of recap just like with your family, like, okay, this is what happened, this is what I'm going through. I mean, they're there to support you and to show you the love that you're supposed to be given. So I love that. And yeah. I'm being serious. Like you were kind of leaving me speechless. Like usually I would have like good responses, but I'm legit speechless because like again, it's so inspiring for real. Okay. So I
oh
want to go.
no, don't make me cry. Oh my God.
Listen, this is again, it's called the safe room for a reason. We're here to be open, authentic, and unapologetic with ourselves. So I'll let people know where like I'm speechless, I got nothing to say, or like I'm blanking out on thoughts. They have been through it all. And trust me, people who've listened to me from day one, they will know I have had bare mess up moments, bare bloopers. So that's just the case. I want to go a bit deeper into the Deaf Queen Boss moniker, and you kind of did talk about how that stemmed, but I
Mhm.
guess I guess I may want to tweak the question since you kind of answered it in the previous one. How do you interact with, individuals who meet up with you or connect with your business? How do you try to personify that moniker, the Deaf Queen Boss, to them so that way they don't just get a better understanding of yourself from the personal side, but also yourself from the professional side and what some services that you could do and what you could offer to them that allows them to get the best value in the end?
Number one, I always tell people be honest. right? Be honest is super important because the more honest you are, the more they're gonna respect you more. And that's what I learned. At the beginning of my business, I didn't even tell a lot of people I was deaf, to be honest. And that's when I realized I keep going. At the time, Zoom didn't have closed caption, and that kicked me. And I was like, oh no, like their platform had no closed caption. I could hear them okay, but I would miss the word. And that's when I realized that maybe I should change up how I post to people. I said, oh, deaf queen boss, because that way it would question people. And second, I look at what can I offer to that person different from everybody else around me or around who they used to like network with and stuff. I look at that and see how can I offer that? How can I offer this value to someone? And
Mhm.
lastly, what I do is I always do my research. I think this is where a lot of people slack on. You have to do your research before you're approaching someone. Okay? If you don't do your research, then you're obviously going to be at the same where you were yesterday. And a lot of time too is that you can't be afraid of telling people who you are, especially personal or professional. I am very, very in the middle, but people know I'm straight to business. And I make it very clear, I make it very well known. They see my attitude, my tone. And again, I read body language. So I know that if they're looking at me at my body language and I'm a body language person, I know. Trust me.
Mm.
So that's how people are willing to want to work with me because one, I offer something different. Two, my story's unique. Three, they never met a deaf person, and it's so limited, especially with the deaf world. You don't find a lot of people like myself out there, and so that's how I really got myself out there and really be honest with myself and say, hey, can I even work with this person? And so it's very cool how I'm really growing in my business and how a lot of people reach out to me and I reach out to people themselves, and people are like, "Wow, you are the deaf queen boss." But you know what I
It's
mean?
exactly
So
why we're here because of that
yeah,
statement you just said right there.
exactly. So I just knew how I approach people, knew what I do, and research. And because I tell people, if you don't do research, you're wasting your time. I value your time. Make sure you value your time, because if you don't value your time, people are gonna think they're not gonna have no respect for you. Straight up. You know, and I
Mm.
tell people that value your time all the time while you're networking. You have to, because people are gonna waste your time, and there will be people that will waste your time, time. So I'm not saying that everybody, guys, but I'm just saying value your time. Because once you value your time, the more respect people are gonna have for you, and they'll be like, you know what, we won't collaborate, but I do have someone else for you, right? So
Yeah.
once you show that, the room change 100%.
And I like that little last part about if I can't help you, then I'll pass it along to someone else. It's like passing the baton. So it's like, okay, at least when you're leaving this interaction, it's not like you're going out empty handed. It's at least I can push towards another resource that you connect with. And I feel like that's something I'm trying to do even more. So a follow up question I want to actually ask. So I know you said that you are someone who's very punctual, and I really love that. But was there a time where that punctuality was not really like solidified and there was a moment, again, you don't have to get too personal about it, but there was a moment where, let's say, you were working with someone and then you tried to give their time and effort, but it just did not pan out the way it is. So
Oh,
before,
all the
yeah.
time, all the time, all the time. I'm not gonna lie. All the time. Oh yeah, for sure. There's times when I'm trying to book an appointment with someone. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, and they cancel twice on me, and I said no, what, no more. Moving forward, unfortunately, I'm not trying to waste my time. If someone is interested in the first time, they will make the effort to find a time to meet with you.
Okay, so it's mostly like they're the ones who are not really valuing the time. So so most of the time when it comes to you, you've been kind of like on the nail no matter what. Like you've
Yeah.
kind of, you know what? I think we need to extract some of that and put it into me, because sometimes I feel like I'm strong. Like I'm not 50-50. I'm more like a 70-30 in the range. Like 70% like yes, then there's like 30% where it's like yikes, it's terrible. So even I don't even want to get personal, but recently I was working with someone. It didn't pan out the way I thought it would be. I thought, oh, I have some time and availability, but obviously I had other things going on and things did not end out the way it did. But I think even to anyone listening, if there's any, I guess, words of encouragement, I would probably say sometimes the interactions you have with people, it may not mean that like you have to say yes immediately.
Yes.
Sometimes it's okay to say,
No.
I don't know. And even sometimes you have to learn from those lessons when you say yes. And I learned from that experience. I'm like, you know what? I was not in it. But one thing I also learned too, this person wasn't really in it either. And like they were kind of switching like left and right. And then once I was away from that situation, I'm like, everything's so clear now. Like what? Like I actually know what I can focus on this and now and like, okay, let's do this. And it's like, you know what, whatever that's happening with that person, wishing them the best. But like now, like, okay, I got everything in motion. So this actually works well. So I first of all, I love the fact that again, you are a punctual person because I feel like again, that is something that I feel every entrepreneur is trying to even like reach perfection to. It seems like for you, like, nah, like, listen, you link up with me, we need to be on the same wavelength. If we're not, then I can't get with you, boss.
Yep, exactly. And it's okay. And I like that. It's okay to say no. And for me, oh my God, there's so many people I said no to be honest with you guys. And I'm like, oh my God, really? And I said, listen, this won't work. And again, I have that mindset of I'm not here to waste any more time and your time and my time because I want to respect your time and my time, right? And I make
Mm-hmm.
that very clear to people straight up. Like, unfortunately, I want to spend my time and your time, but I don't think the collaboration may not work. However, I can refer you to someone else. Will the person get upset then? No, they're going to be grateful for you even thinking and referring them to someone else. And that's what I do a lot of times. And it works really well. And believe me when I tell you, if you do that, the more respect that person's going to have for you. And they'll be like, oh, by the way, I have someone for you. Okay, send them my way. And it
Yeah,
works. And it works.
absolutely.
So you want to also keep that network too, right? And grow your network because when you refer people to people, they're going to send you to people as well. So think of that way. What did they say? When you give, you get that return or something like that. That
Yeah, when
phrase
you
is.
you give and you get,
Yeah,
something
yeah,
like
that,
that.
yeah. Literally that. That's how I think of it. If like someone cannot impact me when I can't impact them, referral. Because you never know.
All right. I love that. I love that. Okay. Going on to the next question. I kind of want to talk about some of the services that you offer. And I did do my research, and my goodness, there's a lot. I don't want to list out all of them because I feel like we'll be here for another 30 minutes. So, I mean, will be here for 30 minutes, probably extra 30 minutes if we go even deeper. But it seems that all the services that you have, they're connected to mental health. And I think with mental health, it's super important no matter what the situation may be or the scenario. I feel everyone should be prioritizing mental health. You know, we are like entrepreneurs, especially how this platform talks about the life of entrepreneurs, their successes, their setbacks, the things that they go through. So, I guess for my question, how do you practice using mental health as an educational mechanism to teach your individual, teach your clients, or even like teaching like school board? Because I think that was something that you did have on your website, which I thought, okay, she's getting to the youth. Like, we love that. We love when they get to the youth. I thought that was really nice. So I guess my question, it's kind of like a two-part question. So how do you practice mental health as an educational mechanism to teach individuals with disabilities to assess their issues, but also how do you practice mental health in a positive light for yourself?
Okay, so the first question. So I do a lot of course and teaching. So the first one I did was for School for the Deaf in Ohio. So I just spoke about my book and my mental health challenges. I was basically educating the student that it's okay not to be okay, and it's okay to not be okay in the real world. Especially knowing 90% of people, even you go out there, it's hearing people. So don't be freaked out by like, oh my God, this is too many here in person. I don't know if it's gonna work. It won't work. And so I did a lot of like exercise with them with my book. So I was able to bring all my book to the UI, and for all the students to have, it was super cute. And a lot of the students were very, very amazed by my book and said, Kalina, I can relate so much. Like, thank you so much. And I had a lot of students, especially after the student had a school trip and they wanted me to go the next day with them because they really loved my energy and they loved the fact that there's someone like them out there. And in the second school as well, I went to Indiana State University. I taught two courses. I taught mental health within the disability community. So I provide resources and tips. How can we do better as a teacher to improve um, those for students who have a disability and those who are deaf as well? What can we do better? As myself, who graduated like 2 years ago, and so fresh out of school, but I know what we can do better, especially in the school system. And the school system is not always fair to the disability community because they sometimes push them away from the rest of the crowd or the rest of the student. It's very unfortunate. So for me, showing up to schools and organizations present to a lot of students is to show them that if I can do it, you can do it. But don't let that one teacher or guiding counselor impact you moving forward. So that's what I do. And as well, I have my one-on-one coaching with clients. So what I do with different clients, I do group coaching where we work on different tasks, different once a week. So I give them my task to work on. We work on it together, and I let every client express what they're going through. And because sometimes clients just need someone to talk to, not you talking to them. And that's something I wish I had when I was younger, where for me just talk and what's on my mind. Because sometimes when we are going through mental health, there's times, especially for example, if you go to a therapist or a counselor, they're always over talking you, right? And you feel like they're not listening. Sometimes you just
Mm.
sometimes you just need to talk. And sometimes I majority of the time I just let my client talk. And I said, okay, I hear what you're saying, but how can we improve this? What is it, the next step that you are comfortable with? A lot of time I notice that people are not comfortable moving forward. It takes time to move forward from whatever they're going through. And especially, for example, a depression and anxiety, that takes a while to improve. It will always be there, but it takes time. And that's what I teach my client. And for me personally, how I take on my mental health, how do I make it into a life for myself is that I schedule once a week. I don't care what day it is. I focus on myself for one day. I don't turn off my phone, but I limited my phone time or my screen time. I limit it. I make sure I put things away, focus on things I need to work on, especially myself, go for a walk or spend time with a friend. Like, for example, this weekend, I'm leaving my province for a little bit for the weekend just to relax. So I make sure that I prioritize my need every week, to be honest, like every week. Like, rather getting my nails done or going to a spa, like I really don't care. I make sure I schedule that off of my calendar so that people know I'm not available.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, mental health is so important. And I love how you went into detail of all your different services. And I love especially the one-on-ones, how there's a lot of intimacy when it comes to just allowing, the clients you're working with to just speak, just let them take control of the conversation. I hope even for me, I hope I'm doing a good enough job allowing you to speak as well. I know we've been kind of bouncing back and forth, but I feel like that goes even both ways if for like any conversation, especially if for someone, if you have a lot of baggage, you need to unload it off. You need to just get it off your chest. It's good to sometimes just be the listener in that situation and not be like, okay, let me try to answer everything like immediately. Like, no, sometimes an individual just wants you to hear and just listen and to take in. And that's even something I try to do if anyone approaches me and they have their problems as well. So I think for you, especially under your situation, I think it's very amazing because it shows the class, but also the understanding again how it kicks into like just how they speak, the body language, and everything like that. The lip reading that's so crucial, especially to just how you interact with individuals from the hearing world. So I love that. Also, you mentioned just all the different courses that you kind of facilitate in these schools. And the thing is, I was expecting you to say something in the TDSB here in Toronto. You said Ohio, you said Indiana. So I was like, well, hold on. We're talking international, like the
Yes,
states.
I am international.
But I feel like you know what? Because of that, I think we have to scrap the Deaf Queen boss thing. We need to call you the international Deaf Queen boss. So I'm christening that name to you right now on the podcast. Kellina Powell, aka the international Deaf Queen boss. Okay.
I love that. Thank you. Oh
Yes,
Lord.
because that's amazing. No, because I think like you mentioned too, even for students, like there's certain things that they may not be able to say within certain spaces, especially in schools. And like you mentioned, guidance counselors, I feel like 99 times out of 10, they're trying to tell you like, oh, like you need to go down this path, that you need to work on here, or like you're just not going to make it because like just on A, B, and C. But again, you shouldn't let those voices tell you what to do. And I'm a huge advocate when it comes to student voice within classrooms. I know for me, like during my time in high school, I was always trying to see like how can we create more spaces where people can share their perspectives and allow some type of action plan to be enforced, where students can be more vocal. They could be the ones probably teaching the lessons. They could be the ones actually facilitating the conversation, not the teachers. And listen, I'm not trying to throw any slander on the teachers. Like, we need teachers. Yeah, we
For
definitely need
sure,
teachers.
100%.
They are the role models. But sometimes, I mean, what we see and what sometimes for what I like here for a lot of people, how they grew up in high school, middle school, whatever the case may be, is just like they never had a good relationship. Luckily, I was able to have that. So even for me, I try to tell myself, how can I talk to these teachers and say, like, listen, I know you and me, we're good, but go talk to this student. Go hear what they have to
Right.
say. Because, and listen, I don't even want to get too deep in it because I feel like I'll be taking a trip down memory lane, but I totally understand everything that you're coming from. So, like, hearing you speak on it, it's resonating. It makes me know, like, yeah, like, I'm really glad that I'm not the only one who thinks like that.
But exactly. And I feel like too, because my guidance counselor shut down on me, right? And a lot of people didn't know this, actually. So it's my family. The guidance counselor basically told me that I could not become a doctor because I'm deaf. And she told
Wow.
me to be a complete different career path. And she didn't believe in me. She forgot to put my grades in for post secondary. And I didn't end up going post secondary right after high school.
Oh, man. So you took like, it was like a year off in a way, but you didn't, again, that was never
Yeah.
intentional for you. It was just like,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
You want to
Yeah.
say? Do you want to say the guy that is counselor's name on here? No, I'm joking. I'm
And
joking. I'm joking.
well, actually, I have a funny story because a social work from my high school did reach out to me and asked me to be a speaker. And I showed up and I literally found my guidance counselor. Her mouth dropped, you guys. Like, she like,
Is that
you're.
look at me now, huh? Do you have something to say to me?
Literally, look at me now. I thought you doubted, you forget. Oh
I'm
my
sorry, I
God.
can't hear you from all that guilt in your chest.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God. I was very nervous to see her because I was like, and that all that negativity she was towards me, like it was just that anxiety with going into the school. And I remember calling my friends. I'm like, oh my God, guys, I'm here. I'm nervous. Like, all that memories I had was so negative towards her. And then I was scared. And the point where I was crying, because I wasn't crying, but like I was like really, really nervous. And so the social worker didn't know what happened. So I ended up telling her. She's like, "What?" And she's like, "No, no, no, no. We're gonna go to our office right now." And I'm like, "Oh, nah." I'm like, "I don't want no drama. I just came here to do my job and walk back out."
Right.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
I totally hear you all the time.
But
Yes.
I think that's something that I want to kind of touch upon quickly before we move on to the next question. Just for anyone listening out there, I think a really strong trait is forgiveness, especially in the world of business and entrepreneurship. I have worked with people where sometimes the relationship was awesome, it was great. And like I mentioned before, I had a situation where things did not go out the way it did. I would never want to, after that situation, just say like, I'm never gonna interact with them, or like anytime I see them, it's like, oh, it's beef, it's on site. It's like, no, like I wanted to be like we're still cool. Obviously, I can't speak for every situation. Maybe there was something that was so drastic, it's like, yeah, I don't want to be with that person. But I feel like if we hold such malice in our hearts, it's just like it's doing more damage to us than to that person that you think it's gonna hurt. It's like they don't care. If they're not thinking about me, why am I thinking about them so hard? That's just making me feel bad. So like even for me, I've had situations where like, yeah, things did not go the way it did. And I know we mentioned like high school and everything. I won't lie, there were a couple of teachers that are just like, what they got on my nerves and everything like that. But I will go back and like I'm not gonna hold that grudge because at the end of the day, like you mentioned, I'm here to do me. I'm here to do business and I'm working on it. And then when they see that, it kind of becomes a reflective moment to them saying, like, wow, kind of goes to show that like I really shouldn't just judge someone just based on their situation and say that you're destined to fail. It's like you're not the one who tells me at the end of the day that I'm gonna fail. That's up to me, and that's up to again what God has planned for me. So again, I feel like everything we're talking about, it's so retrospective in a way, and I love that we're having this
Right.
conversation. Like again, I told you this. I knew like when we first connect, I'm like we're gonna have a really good conversation. I just have a feeling like we're gonna go so deep into it. Okay, okay. Let me just kind of get the emotions down for a bit. I know we're on a high, but ladies and gentlemen, if you are tuning in, this is Love Bay Radio. This is the president Shon Williams here, host of the Safe Room podcast. We're here with Kellina Powell, the Deaf Queen boss. We've been having a fantastic conversation. We're gonna go a little bit deeper, and I want to touch upon your book. And this was something I'm like, okay, I'm excited to kind of get into because I did again go to your website and I love the blog that you post in terms of like why I needed to write this book. I read through and I'm like, oh, wow, like that's really great. Again, it shows that like, yeah, you were determined, like, listen, like if no one else is gonna do this, if I'm not seeing anyone else do that, listen, I'm about to be the anchor, I'm about to be the pillar that starts this train going. So I guess the question I want to ask is what legacy do you want to leave with your book, which is titled Every Day I Am Just Deaf, Life in a Hearing World with Deaf Queen Boss? I will say it's a tad long of a title, but who am I to judge? Who am I to judge? But what is the legacy that you definitely want to leave with your book within your audience, but also people looking from the outside?
So the legacy I want to leave and for everybody, not just the deaf community, how to be more inclusive. That's the most important thing that I want to leave with my book. Just to be more inclusive and let people know that whether you have a disability or not, it doesn't mean you cannot achieve anything in life.
I love that. I love it. Plain and simple. Okay. Another question I actually want to ask up, just to kind of continue the conversation, is what was the process like of writing the book? Because listen, I'm one of those individuals. This is gonna be hard to believe. I am not a big fan of books. I don't know what it is. I will read a book for 5 minutes, and all of a sudden, I'm falling
Hey,
asleep.
listen, my book is a poetry book. You can finish that in 5 minutes. Okay.
Oh, okay, okay. But I don't know. Maybe just like for me, I'm trying to do better. So I recently got a book at a financial literacy event, and I'm gonna try to get into it. And I feel like maybe because just how my brain functioned at one point, I guess it didn't click with me. But I feel like now if I read a book, I'm like, okay, you know what? I could legit probably read this. I mean, obviously, I'm someone that like I love storytelling. That's just why I do the things that I do. But I guess for you, how was that process of writing the book? Like, was it more of like the time and finding, areas of the day to work on it? Was it more of like, what am I actually gonna say? Like, what is gonna be put in this book?
So it all started during COVID when we were on lockdown. And so I was barely working, of course. And I was bored. And I told myself, you know what, let me write a book during COVID. What I did was grab my laptop or my iPad and I just started typing. And I hired an editor and I had a friend of mine who actually also wrote a book. So I asked her, "How did you write this book?" Like I wrote it on Microsoft Word. She's like, and it took me 2 months to write my book, you guys. 2 months because I was so bored. So I was like, you know what? I'm just write. And that's when I kind of stopped and paused. What type of book do I want to give to the audience? Because that's something you also have to think about. What type of book you want to sell? So that's when I realized, okay, I want to do poetry book because I love reading poem books. I really do. I have like 100 poem books. And I'm like, let me just write a poem book too. Like, oh my God. And so I did. And I honestly, truly, the first person that read my book was a friend of mine. And she read it. And I did it for fun. I think I only did like 3 or 4 pages of my book. She read it and she read it in like 2 seconds. She's like, oh my God, you're going to make a huge impact by writing this book. And I'm like, no way. No one's going to buy this book. I'm just going to. And also, too, because I was having fun. And that's why it took me quicker to write my book. I wasn't sitting there overthinking, oh my God, what should I. No. I knew that's what I wanted. I took a step back because after the second month, before I even published it, I wanted to reread it again to make sure this is something that I want people to read. Because when you like people to read something, it's a reflection of who you are as well. So I want to make sure that people look at this book as, and not someone, oh, boo, like story for. No, it's like, wow, Kellina went through all these struggles. If she can do it, I can do it. That's exactly what my message is for the book. And that's what I wanted. So I recreate this whole book all over again. and I wrote a poetry book. I break it down very, very specific. That's how I want it. And then I showed it to an editor, and she would document my expectation, and she was like, "Oh my god, this book is so big because it's really crazy." And then I started selling a few, and a lot of people loved it. People were like, "Your book needs to be out there, girl." And I was like, I don't know if I want it to be that out there like that yet. I can start with Toronto and then, but I was completely wrong. People were catching up from Australia, Europe, and South America. I was like, what? Where am I? Like, I was shocked. And to be honest, when you have fun, you don't realize the result will be amazing. And I feel like a lot of people just go and don't focus on the fun things. It's so important that you be creative, have fun, let your creativity come out. And that's the one thing I learned about myself was you need to have fun. Because if you don't have fun, the results will be crap.
Right, absolutely. I think the most interesting thing that you said from all of that is that you say you wrote this in 2 months.
Mm,
That listen, I've never written a book. I've written stuff like documents and long documents. 2 months to write a book is impressive. Like usually, and I've interviewed some people. They say like, oh, it takes them like 6 months, probably a year to write a
yeah.
book. It's like so 2 months. I'm like, you were locked. You must have been locked in. Like no one disturb me. Listen, like don't go in my room. Don't. You have to knock on my
I
door.
was
Like
so bored. Like, you guys, I was so bored. Like, I worked from home. I didn't, like, I was just home. And I was like, damn, I'm so bored. And I was literally locked in. Like, I was just having fun doing this, rewriting, like, nonstop.
I love that because I feel like even for you, you have the professional stuff when it comes to the services, but even having the book where it kind of stemmed off of the pandemic again, 2020 was a point where everything was closed down. I call it the year of realization, the self realization year, because I feel like a lot of us kind of opened up to just our surroundings, just like where are we at right now? Like for me, I was in my third year of university, and like I just felt like I'm really doing nothing right now, and that's what kind of sparked the origins of the podcast or the safe room. I got started in 2020, and I just wanted to have conversation with anyone. It's like just who wants to just
Right.
hop on for like 50 minutes to an hour and just talk, because I'm at that point where like I don't want to be bored binge watching YouTube videos. Like that doesn't get me to wake up every single day. So I love how for you it was that creative moment to write a book, and people saw the impact from that eventually led to like, oh, okay, I'm gonna put this on Amazon. Like people are actually buying this book and it's leaving an impact where you said you wanted to represent a level of inclusivity. When people read it, it's like, okay, I want people to see like they can be inclusive. Like it's not putting people in categories or excluding individuals as well based on their characteristics. And even for yourself being deaf, it's like you shouldn't be putting people into separate groups or just kind of degrading them based on that quality. So I really love how again it was from just a sporadic moment where you're just like, you know, I'm gonna write a book and like let's just see what happens. And all of a sudden, like, wow, this actually brings some change. And again, the best inventions in life are by accident. Like
Yes.
no one creates something that's like, oh, this has to be the most perfect. I'm like, let me tell you something. This whole podcast thing, this was truly off of vibes. Like when I
Ye-
first started, like if you go back and hear all my conversation, it's so random. Like I'm talking like one episode, I'm talking about like the tedious beat. Another one, I'm talking about like an award show and giving my nominees. Another one, I'm talking about like, oh, summer's coming up. Like what y'all doing for the summertime? Like it was completely a mess, but it would never led to where I'm at right now, where I'm like, hey,
right.
I'm doing these conversations, being on the radio, and I'm grateful for that opportunity, grateful to be here in this moment because I was just bored. I'm like, you know what? Let me just start. So I love that for you, that you had this idea, like, you know what? I'm gonna write a book and it's reaping the benefits. So I just want to say that's amazing, Kellina.
Thank you. Thank you. It's not easy, though. Just to go edit back again and have an editor think this. Like, it took time, but eventually I end up selling my. When did I publish my book? 2021, right? Yeah, so 2021. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so this next part, I actually wanted to break down a section of. Do you have your book on you right now? Perhaps.
I do, but it's in my room. I have to go run and get it. Can I? Can I go run and get it, or should I not?
If you want to go run, then like you can run
Okay.
quickly. I'm just gonna recap everyone just in terms of just where we're at. Again, we have Kellina Powell. on the Safe Room podcast here today. She is a passionate entrepreneur. She goes by the moniker of the Deaf Queen Boss. We've had a fantastic conversation. Kellina has talked about her story growing up when she lost her hearing at the age of 4, how she's been able to maneuver in the hearing world and the deaf world, how she's grown her business to now teach courses, do one-on-one consultations. She talked about how she was teaching courses in Ohio and Indiana, just absolutely breathtaking, amazing. And now we've kind of taken the time to broke down some parts of her book. That's what she's going to do right now. She's grabbing her book right now. But I guess since I have some time for myself, I would probably say for anyone listening to this interview on Love Bay Radio, please go follow the Safe Room on Instagram at the Safe Room Official. I know I usually say that for the end, but I thought let me just get my quick plug in here. But Kellina's now back, so
Hello, I'm back, you guys. Okay, here's the
okay,
book.
okay, perfect, perfect. So I mean, I'm gonna give you full autonomy on this one. I'm not gonna
Okay.
tell you what section to break down. You can choose, and you can just kind of go into full detail. Especially how you mentioned it's a poetry book. I'm like, all right, maybe she got some bars. Who knows? Let me see if she got some bars.
Of course I do. I always have an extra spare copy for me all the time in case anybody hosting and all asking, no, can I see a book? I'm like, of course, I have it with me. Of course. So,
Okay, perfect, perfect. So yeah, I guess I would say the floor is yours. Whenever you want to just start and kind of break down a section, you could pick one and just kind of go over like maybe how did that came to be? How did you come up with inspiration for it? Maybe read out a couple of lines just for anyone listening. Maybe they might want to hear a little snippet and be like, all right, you know, I'm gonna have to go purchase the book myself. I'm gonna have to head over to Amazon and make a little purchase, you know? So I mean the floor is yours.
yeah, honestly, I just wanted to say that entrepreneurship is never easy. I do not want anybody to following people on social media, be like, oh yeah, but this person can do this or this person can do that. Especially when that person lives in Dubai. Please
Mm,
do not think otherwise. You have to understand that that side of the world is completely different from this side of the world. Every time you go to a different country, a different state, it's different. And you have to let yourself know that I'm in a whole different environment. And it's okay to be in a different environment. But you learn how to grow. And also too what I learned is when I was writing my book and learning my entrepreneur journey was that people come and go.
right.
People come and go. You cannot be afraid to lose some people. You cannot be. Because if you are, then you can't grow as a person. Especially when you are trying to grow for yourself, especially if you're trying to own a business, radio station, anything like that, you have to explore and go different places in different communities, different environments. You have to. And it's okay to be scared. But don't let that fear tell you what to do or let it control your life. And that's where a lot of people make mistakes, just letting that fear or that voice in their head impact them. You cannot make an impact. What I can say is if you are struggling with it, especially with your mental health and the forces, I advise you to find someone who you can speak to about your forces or and your mental health. Because we do, at the end of the day, we all need someone to talk to. Even if you don't feel comfortable going to a counselor or therapist, talk to a family member. And definitely that will definitely help you a lot.
I love that. And is that like everything that you said right now? Is that like part of your book? Is that like a section within your book?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
yeah.
I
I
love how like
literally
you said that you didn't have to pick up the book like this. It's off the dome. It's like I didn't even have to tell you or like read off of something. I was like, I love that.
I talk a lot about my book, like relationship, dating, and finding the right people. Like it's a lot, but it's very like whoa. And I don't want people to think that they cannot do anything in life. It's possible. I don't care how old you are. And a lot of people think, oh, I'm in my late 20s. I can't do this because I'm old. What? I never knew the age mattered. Just like Beyonce, Jay-Z, they're like, how many age gap are they? Beyonce don't care how old she is, but she's dating a young guy. I'm sorry. I never knew we're like, no, there's no term of old, no numbered old. Like, there's none. No, no, no.
Yeah, I would probably say like when you're in your 20s, that's like your most experimental years because like
Hmm.
you're figuring out the pieces. So for myself, I'm 23. I mean, I'm still trying to put the pieces together. People don't even believe I'm 23. People are like, you got a baby face. Like I think the other day I went to a mental health conference and I was stopped by the street by someone. They were like asking me a question. Like they're like, you know how there's people on the streets that are like handing out flyers and everything like that, and they're like, oh, how old are you? And I'm like, how old do you think I am? And he's like, "Oh, you're 18." I'm like, "I wish, I wish I could go back to 18." Like, nah. It's like I'm 23. She's like, "What? You have a baby face. Like that's amazing." But I
So do
think,
I.
but
People
I
think
I
I'm
love
18
that.
too. I'm like, do I look like a baby? They're like, yeah. I'm like, oh wow.
Listen, Kalina, we're living in an age where like
Like
18.
they always say, black don't crack.
Yeah,
So
black don't crack. So but I love that because I think it's so important. Like it's never a wrong time in your life to start putting the pieces together or start getting the ball rolling. So I think for anyone listening right there, like that's motivation. It doesn't matter how old you are, you can get stuff going as long as you have a strong mindset that you're happy with what you're doing. Especially like again, if you're happy with what you're doing, then it's going to lead you to the right path. I love what I do with the Safe Room podcast. I know Kalina, you love what you do. That's why we're on the trajectories that we're at right now because we're both succeeding in our both ways.
yeah, definitely. It's like when you have fun and enjoy it, love what you do, the rest will fall in place. It takes time, but it's gonna be worth it in the end.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So that's all the questions I have for today. So, Kalina, again, I just want to say thank you for coming on the podcast, for being here on Love Bay Radio. You are absolutely fantastic. Again, you were definitely the loud one. You were taking control of the conversation. And that's something that I'm not even going to complain about. Sometimes I need to know when to just like back off and give people the chance to speak. So, I'm glad that you brought super high octane energy for this conversation.
Oh, thank you. Love it, love it. I had so much fun being here. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And just checking the comments here, we have one from Peterlin, such youthful wisdom. Yeah, absolutely. Youthful wisdom. I'm telling you guys, I'm telling you this. I only bring the absolute best. I bring the absolute best here on the platform. So expect more conversations to come. But again, Kalina, absolutely amazing. Love hearing your story. Where can people follow you on social media or connect with you?
Yeah, for sure. So everybody can follow me on social media, which is Dep Queen Blog on every social media except for Facebook. If you're looking for me on Facebook, it is Kellina Powell. So, and yeah, so you can find me Dep Queen Boss.
Okay, perfect, perfect. And like I mentioned before, when you went to go run off for your book, you can find me on Instagram at the Safe Room Official. If you want to check out all of our previous episodes, you can just go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and now we're on YouTube. We're now on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel, so if you go type in the Safe Room or Shon Williams to just be more accurate, you can find all the episodes audio only. I'm working on video. Don't worry. I'm working on the video side, but obviously, like it's a process, but all the audio is there on YouTube. And again, Spotify or Apple Podcasts, just type in the Safe Room and you will find me. Again, thank you to Kalina for coming on, and make sure you guys tune in next week for your number one favorite podcast of the week, the Safe Room Podcast. So yeah, and Kalina, again, I just want to say again, big ups to you. You're an absolute boss. Like that's not just a moniker. You are living that boss life. And I just want to say I commend everything that you're doing. Absolutely amazing. Just keep up the grind and never change.
Thank you. I love that. Thank you so much.
All right, absolutely. And for everyone listening, we'll see you guys next time.